Welcome back to another episode of ROC Boys football. The fellas are heading down to the Big 12 as the Kansas State Wildcats go on the road to Fort Worth to play a TCU Horned Frogs team that we've been riding all year. This is one of the most fun offenses to watch, and quite frankly, just a little bit of magic. You look at what TCU's been able to do, beating Kansas, beating Oklahoma State, being down 14 in the fourth quarter. This team feels magical to me, and it doesn't seem like they're losing anytime soon. Before we get into it, though, again, just wanted to say thank you guys for all the support you guys have shown the channel. We love talking ball with you guys in the comment section, and the support you guys have shown really, really means a lot. If you like the content, consider subscribing to the channel. Dill, let's start talking some ball. I'm going to kick it off to you. What are your initial reads on this game here?
I mean, TCU's been one of those teams that I think have really surprised everyone and playing really good. And I think you're happy for that program because obviously you move on from a guy like Gary Patterson. And for a TCU, you're probably a little bit like, oh, how could have we done much better? I mean, he was so good for such a long time and he did trail off. But, man, Sonny Dykes has taken this up a notch. He's gotten the offense really kind of humming. And I think you see the matchup predictor on ESPN. I think that's a fair kind of assessment. I very much think TCU should win this game. I think their offense is too good. But yeah, I'm looking forward to it because Kansas State's a good test for sure.
This is going to be a really fun game. And anytime you get to watch TCU play, it's fun because that offense is just extremely explosive. And going back to what you said about Coach Patterson, I give TCU a lot of credit. That is not an easy decision to make. I think you saw Duke struggle with that. I mean, they had Cutcliffe around for so long, and they just didn't really want to rip the Band-Aid off, although you saw the writing was on the wall. Like, this program is kind of stalling out, and it's very easy to give a coach who's been there for so long and had so much success more years, but they said, hey, we have to get with the times. You have to modernize this offense. And you look at guys like Quentin Johnston who are sitting in this Gary Patterson offense that's so bland. Like, this offense – you're seeing Sonny Dykes completely transform it and use some of that talent to really make this offense special.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I think when you go up against a Kansas State, who I think is a solid defense, but not crazy good, I think this is probably going to be a relatively high-scoring game in my estimation. And I don't know. I think that is more determined by can Kansas State put up enough points. But, yeah, I think the matchup is pretty good. I mean, no one's really stopping Quentin Johnston right now. People aren't getting a ton of pressure on TCU. I mean, Oklahoma State's got a good group of D linemen, I think, better than people think. And I thought TCU did a fairly good job keeping Duggan clean. And even when it breaks down a bit, which Kansas State might be able to do a little bit, Duggan's a gamer, and he does a really good job avoiding sacks and making plays.
Yeah, that TCU offense is something we've talked about this team a lot, and it's something that I was kind of pounding the table on. You look at the first couple games, Quentin Johnston wasn't really a factor until you go into that Kansas game, and I'm saying this offense looks so good. And they have, in my opinion, the best wide receiver in the country, an absolute freak show in Quentin Johnston, and they're not really using him. In the last 2 weeks, when they needed big-time plays, they're going to their big-time playmaker. Like, Quentin Johnston, if you follow some of the stuff we do on the NFL draft, he's like a guy. He's my gem. He's been my gem since the summer. He's 6'4", great straight line speed. He's great after the catch. But he's also a guy that, yeah, you see a lot of guys who are 6'4" and can fly in a straight line. His ability to create separation and be a friendly target to the quarterback is next level. He's the best wide receiver in the whole entire country in my mind. And TCU finally unlocking him. They're unlocking another aspect of that offense. Now, you make a good point. This Kansas State defense, I think, is very good. That being said, I don't know if they'll be able to slow down TCU that much. I think TCU will get into the 30s, and then we're talking about can Kansas State score enough points to keep this one close.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Kansas State, I think you've seen them get victimized a little bit in the secondary against the decent passing teams. Yes. I think Oklahoma should have scored a lot more points, but Dylan Gabriel missed, in my estimation, too many throws. So I think as good as they've been, I mean, they do have a good front seven. They got the really good pass rusher, obviously. I like that nose guard, I think 92, Higgins, and obviously some good linebackers. But I don't think they have the talent to deal with a guy of the Quentin Johnston ilk and even the supporting cast. Because, again, you kind of mentioned, even when Johnston wasn't balling out, they were still putting up a lot of points and moving the ball in the air.
Yeah, I think one of the big questions is, and why I'm kind of high on TCU in this game, especially at home, at night, and you're only 3.5-point favorites. I think this TCU team is one of the better teams in the country. Can Adrian Martinez and Deuce Vaughn get that run game going? Like, it is a very good offensive line, and you have one of the best quarterback athletes in the country in Adrian Martinez, who's been playing very well this year, and then one of the best running backs in the country. Can you establish that run and keep that TCU offense off the field? My thing is, what Iowa State did to kind of slow down Kansas State in that offensive attack, TCU does a very similar brand. That 3-3-5, they have a lot of playmakers who can kind of stretch that field. I struggle to see Kansas State really moving the ball at will against TCU, and quite frankly, I think they'll need to do that if they want to have a shot.
You know what's interesting about it is Kansas State, when they have a really aggressive run defense, like Oklahoma with Venables is obviously a more aggressive run defense than an Iowa State or even a TCU. And I think they were able to use that and get Adrian Martinez loose a little bit, get Deuce Vaughn loose, because those two are guys who are very explosive, make one cut, kind of go.
Yeah.
When they're forced to just prod out a long drive, which is what Iowa State made them do,
TCU
they did prove they couldn't do it. So that's why I think you're concerned if you're Kansas State a little bit scoring points, because they're not. I'm not sure they're built to be really steady and do a 16-play drive, and that's certainly what TCU is going to make them do. And that's probably
they're an explosive play offense. You saw the only touchdown they scored was on a very, very long touchdown against Iowa State, and you make a very good point. TCU is going to kind of play that bend but don't break defense. They're going to try to play good red zone defense. My problem is that Adrian Martinez has been awesome on the ground, averaging 6 yards per carry. We've seen that. That being said, he still hasn't been the greatest pocket passer. I mean, he hasn't even thrown for 1,000 yards. He's sitting at a 62% completion percentage for 900 yards. Yeah, he hasn't thrown an interception, but he's only thrown 4 touchdowns, and his average yard per completion is 6.5 yards. And so making Adrian Martinez consistently be accurate and make throws and kind of work his way down the field without hitting those explosive plays is going to be something Kansas State's going to need to do. My question is, can they do it consistently? I don't know.
Yeah, no, I think honestly it's not to me. I think this is kind of what TCU wants. They want a team that isn't going to play really – I just don't see them being that slow offense that I think could present TCU the problem. They just don't have it in their nature, and they haven't been doing it. So I kind of like where TCU is just because I think TCU is going to score. I think you know that. It doesn't matter how good Kansas State is. And I mean – they're just going to score on everyone. Duggan's really good, obviously. You mentioned Johnson, but I do think this is a tough matchup for Kansas
This
State.
is a really good litmus test because outside of Iowa State, Kansas State might be the best defense in the Big 12. Like Oklahoma proven not really to be that great of a defense. Kansas, obviously not a very good defense. And Oklahoma State, quite frankly, not the defense they were last year. And so you're seeing them play the best defense they've played all year. Can that offense still be explosive and still be that high-powered against a Kansas State defense that I really do think is one of the better units in the Big 12? And again, only allowing 16.7 points per game. That'll kind of be the battle. And one other thing I want to note is Kansas State's done a really good job at creating turnovers. Like they have a very good pass rush, and they have some guys in the secondary who can make plays on the football. Max Duggan has been really, really good about avoiding interceptions. I mean, 16 touchdowns to 1 interception. They take care of the football extremely well. Bill, I'm going to kick it to you for your official pick. TCU at home, at night, undefeated, only 3.5-point favorites.
Yeah, this feels like it should be a touchdown. I mean, TCU is going to be absolutely rocking. You've seen it. It was really great atmosphere against Oklahoma State last week. And, I mean, now this TCU team really, I think in the fan base really is starting to believe like Big 12 is certainly on the table for them. And
you're smelling Big 12 championship. You're smelling college football playoffs. Like, is there a team in the Big 12 really that you're saying TCU's in trouble against? This is
Texas, I think, could give them a matchup for sure. But I think you're right. It is I don't think it's a wild lead. I don't think they look like number 2. Let's say that. I think they're number 2 or 1, depending on who you say, Texas or TCU.
Yeah, and if you're the TCU fan base, you're smelling it. That's also my pick. I was very, very surprised when I was prepping this, and then I look at the odds, and TCU's only 3.5-point favorites. This will probably be on the card. Like this, I really like this spot. It almost made me look at like, are they going on the road to Manhattan and going to Kansas State? Because that's where I thought that line would make more sense. I would probably be comfortable taking TCU on the road with this line. Give me the TCU Horned Frogs to cover that 3.5. I think this is one of the better plays of the weekend. We've been very, very, I don't know if you use the word lucky, but TCU's been a good team for us in the past. We're going to ride them again this week. And again, we appreciate you guys checking us out. If you do like the content, consider subscribing to the channel. We really do appreciate you guys. We'll talk to y'all later. Peace.